This is a common mistake among fish farmers, especially beginners, which is very crucial, and every farmer must know this because such issue can give you highest yield and it can also give you more mortality. So it is very important to know such issue and try your best to avoid that. Before we move deep into the issue, let's watch how I'm going to feed my fish. These are catfish. Let me invite them before we proceed. So observe how I'm feeding them. Now, guess the topic of presentation today. I'm sure you have observed how I have fed the fish. Yes, this is the issue I was talking about. Many fish farmers, especially beginners, I believe that if you want to grow your fish bigger, then you need to give your fish more feed. That might be true, or that is true. However, it is also very dangerous if you are not careful and you overfeed your fish. Overfeeding your fish can lead to highest mortality ever in your farm. Someone might be wondering, how could overfeeding or feeding your fish leads to mortality? I'll explain that to you. But before we proceed, please, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and let's proceed. Now, when you overfeed your fish, and when I say overfeed, that is giving the fish more than the necessary feed to consume at a time. We say we overfeed them. So when that happens, it reduces the water quality of the fish pond. Why? Because the leftover feed, the uneaten feed, is going to dissolve in the water. And when it dissolves, it increases the ammonia content in the fish pond, therefore depleting the oxygen level in the pond. And that leads us to another issue of overfeeding. That is oxygen depletion. Because when ammonia in your fish pond is high, the oxygen level is low. So when it introduces the ammonia and then it reduces the oxygen, your fish is being through a lot of stress, diseases, and the bad news is lead to mortality. So when you overfeed your fish, there's more waste production in your pond because when the uneaten feed is dissolved, it adds waste in the pond. Also, when the fish feed more, they defecate more and release more waste in the fish pond. All this within few days, you'll find your farm smelling and the water very dirty. When you are also overfeeding your fish, you are wasting your feed. Yes, because you give them more than necessary and they are not going to consume all. So the remaining feed has been wasted. So you can preserve that feed for another day, therefore reducing the cost of feeding your fish, which will enhance your profit after harvest. And one thing you must note, fish, especially catfish, you might also think that they consume all the feed, as you can see. However, such animal or such living creatures has a tendency of vomiting the feed when they overfeed. Yes, they overfeed, they will vomit it back, and the feed that they vomit back will also introduce what I said earlier, ammonia, and deplete the oxygen. So trying to give the balance between underfeeding and overfeeding is very important. Because when you underfeed your fish too, they will not grow well. And you overfeed it, they will die because you will have water quality issues. So strike balance between underfeeding and overfeeding. We will talk more about how to do that later. But what I want you to note is that when you are feeding your fish, you have to be very careful. And now, how do you determine whether this is the right way to feed your fish without knowing where you overfeed them? Before we even go there, as part of the negative effect of overfeeding your fish, when you overfeed the fish, the feed conversion ratio reduces because the when they overfeed, the digestive enzymes in their system become weak, and therefore digestion becomes very low. Just compare yourself as human. When you eat too much or when you overeat, how do you feel? You feel dizzy and you even just feel not doing anything. And even if you're not careful, you feel weak or sick. The same thing applies to the fish. When they overfeed, when they overeat, it means that they are going to have issues of digestion. All this has negative effects on your fish. Now, if you want to know how to feed your fish without overfeeding them, you need to do or to feed them in a method we call responsive feeding. I'm sure you have watched how I fed the fish in the beginning. I didn't just come and pour the feed once in the pond. No, I use a cup or whatever and throw once at a time. I'll put small and see how they react to the feed. And you will realize that when you give them the first feed, they will rush for it. That shows how eager and determined they are for the feed at that time. They are hungry. They rush for it. Then you give them second, they will rush for it. And once you keep giving, you realize that their reaction toward the feed will be reducing until you realize that they will now be just picking one. At that point, they are okay. You stop feeding them. Because if you give them more, you will realize that the feed will be floating on the pond. In that case, you have overfed them. Because that feed that is floating is likely to dissolve in the pond and cause what I said earlier. That's ammonia and waste. So, the mistake you have to also avoid is that someone might feel that, oh, I'm going somewhere or I don't have time. They will just come and pour the feed and go without monitoring. Monitor how they eat. And the funny thing is that you might know that they take this number of or this quantity of feed all every day. There's a day you will come and give them and they will not take up to that amount. So if you assume that, oh, they have been taking this quantity and then you just throw and go away, it's likely at that time they don't have appetite or there's something wrong with them, which they are not going to eat. So they will leave the feed there and it's going to destroy the water and kill them. So when you give them the feed, monitor to make sure that they eat everything before you go. And when they eat and you see that there's a leftover feed floating on the surface, then just use the net or something that is available to you and collect it on top there and throw it away. Better still, if you collect it and you see that it's still hard and you can dry it and feed later, no problem. But don't leave it there to dissolve in the water. You are going to have water issues. Please, if you found value so far, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Now let's proceed. So if you feed your fish the right way, the method I've shown you, you are going to have balance between underfeeding and overfeeding, and that will give you best results. Like I said, underfeeding has consequences. They don't grow bigger. Overfeeding leads to disease and mortality. Have the balance. And now, it also depends on the kind of feed that you are using. Mostly, or the recommended feed is the floating pelleted feed. And that's what most commercial feed producers are producing. And that's what we use. And that's why I said it will be flowing and then you collect it. And that is also the best feed because, like I said, you monitor, you see how they're reacting to it. But we also have the sinking feed. That one when you throw on the fish pond, it sinks. And once it sinks, you don't even know whether the feed is being consumed by the fish or not. Someone will say, whether the feed has been consumed by the fish or the fish has been consumed by the feed. Whichever way, you need to avoid that. So make sure that the bottom line is do not overfeed your fish and make sure you do not also underfeed your fish. That way, you are going to have a good and then healthy fish to be harvested beautifully and you make your profit. Thank you so much for watching. If you found value in this video, please subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification button so that when anytime I release an educational video like this, you will see it. And like the video and share. My name is Abdulaziz Issa. This is Falco Aquaponics.